Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. At the outset, Pakistan warmly congratulates Ambassador Volkan Bozkir of Turkey on his election as the President of the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The General Assembly has elected 4 non-permanent members to the UN Security Council for a 2-year term commencing from 1st January 2021. We congratulate Ireland, Norway, and Mexico on their election to the Council. The election of India, however, raises fundamental questions. The UN Charter has entrusted the Security Council with the primary responsibility for maintenance of international peace and security. The Charter stipulates that in discharging this responsibility, on behalf of the Member States, the Council shall act in accordance with the purposes and principles of the United Nations. This is the touchstone for the Council's credibility and legitimacy. India stands in flagrant violation of several resolutions of the Security Council that prescribed a UN-supervised plebiscite to enable the people of Jammu and Kashmir to exercise their fundamental right to self-determination. India's gross and systemic violations of human rights in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir have been extensively documented by international human rights and humanitarian organizations, as well as the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in its successive reports. India has incarcerated 8 million Kashmiris, including the top Kashmiri leadership, with 900,000 occupation troops. The people of the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir have been suffering under an inhuman lockdown and military siege for over 10 months, following India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019. The entire region has been turned into a large prison with unprecedented restrictions which continue despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. India has persistently defied requests to allow international monitors into the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. These Indian actions, aimed at illegally altering the demographic structure of the occupied Jammu and Kashmir, are in violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions and international law, in particular the 4th Geneva Convention. While the world is grappling with the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic, India is busy, unabashedly, advancing the RSS BJP-inspired extremist Hindutva ideology. Over and above, the current Indian leadership has perpetuated massive violations of human rights against its minorities, in particular Muslims, threatening them with statelessness. Rising Islamophobia in India is evident from the destruction of the Babri Mosque. The imposition of the Discriminatory Citizenship Amendment Act, initiation of the National Register of Citizens process, and the targeted killings of Muslims in repeated pogroms in Mumbai in 1993, Gujarat 2002, and New Delhi in February 2020 are various facets of this phenomenon. The Indian state's proclivity to violence is no secret, which is a direct consequence of its headlong militarization and unbridled hegemonic ambitions. It has routinely used aggression in seeking to coerce its neighbors. It has employed terrorism at one time or another as a state policy to destabilize every neighboring state. It has border disputes with all its neighbors. India's so-called 5S approach in the UN Security Council is only a smokescreen to mask the arrogant, belligerent, and confrontationist side of India. Perhaps India would do well to consider another S, that is, Satya, or truth. The truth of Indian oppression, aggression, and occupation, which cannot be covered up by false espousals. Indian actions in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir and beyond are a fundamental negation of the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. India is a consistent violator of the UN Security Council resolutions on Jammu and Kashmir dispute. And rather than facilitate it, a country with such credentials must